Being surrounded by people or situations that constantly hurt you makes healing seem impossible. When you're in a position like that, anyone who talks about improving your mental health sounds ridiculous. It makes you think, yeah, right, you wouldn't last a day in my shoes. Or at least that's what I used to thought at the beginning of my own healing. And it pissed me off because everyone made it look so easy, but I couldn't achieve it due to many things, like my environment. You'll see, I didn't grow up liking anything in the material aspect, but various things were missing or kinda distorted on an emotional level. Now I recognize what that did to me, but I don't blame or resent others for it, since eventually I understood that you cannot give what you don't know, and that if you don't heal, you will hurt the people around you. It isn't their fault, but you don't have to allow it either. However, I was much younger and already aware that my inner world was truly dark. So, out of necessity, I wanted to improve it and actually discover happiness. Not just keep myself going through short bursts of joy from video games or buying things. The thing is, it didn't matter how much journaling I did or how many sweet affirmations I told myself in the mirror. I always found my way back to self destruction. And some of the main reasons for that were the people around me, the things I often heard, the things I told myself, how they made me feel like a burden, and how nothing I did was worth noticing. My efforts felt pointless and kinda lame, to be honest. I couldn't improve. It was like pouring a glass of yellow liquid into a black river. Nothing changed. I just felt so much envy toward everyone who did escape those feelings. So, yes, I failed back then. I went right back into the spiral. But after this whole sad story, the question that remains is, if you're here trying to help others, how did you heal while being there? I don't think there's a specific guide for healing, since each person is a world of their own. But maybe some of the things I did years later might work for you. So here goes nothing. Creating distance from the people who constantly threw their toxicity at me was a huge help. Obviously, though, we can't always push everyone away. Sometimes we live or work with them, right? So I learned when to avoid them, when to spend time with them just to keep the peace, and how to ignore their burst of anger, because they weren't my responsibility. I stopped caring about their fury once I realized that their explosive words weren't caused by my existence. They came from their own unresolved feelings and unhappiness, which they took out on me. After that, I inevitably became a bit colder as a defense mechanism, not giving empathy to people who treated me poorly, for example, because not holding on to resentment isn't the same as forgiving. It's just detaching, which also allows you to move on. I started treating myself the way I want to be treated as well, and I know how cliche it sounds, but it surprisingly worked. I figured out how to identify my needs and meet them to the best of my abilities. So, if I wanted to cry, I did. If I needed to rest, I did. And so on. In all honesty, though, just because you healed doesn't imply you're fully immune to their attitude and such. There will be times where we're not feeling great or a little sensitive, and their daggers will get through our barrier. But, as I often say, healing isn't about keeping it together all the time. It's about being able to pick yourself up again after the fall to continue walking forward. But in the end, what made the biggest difference for me was realizing that reality is yours to define. Just because others tell you you're too sensitive, you make everything harder, you're selfish, or you're not going to get anywhere, doesn't mean it's true. Those comments don't prove your self destructive thoughts right. Believe it or not, most people speak while being clouded by their own emotions. So those comments aren't based on reality, they're a reflection of their own urge to project how they feel onto you, whether that's intentional or not. Don't let that trick you into destroying your well being or twisting how you see yourself. However, if your current self perception is negative already, then build a new one you actually want to become and start working toward embodying it. Because, in the end, you're the one who gets the final word on who you are, how you feel, and where you want your life to go. Acknowledging where their behavior comes from doesn't make you their punching bag, even if it feels like you're forced to tolerate it because of your circumstances, like them being your boss or family. But small changes matter in the long run. It might be slow at first, since nothing happens instantly, but one day you'll be in that same situation, hearing the same words, and you'll think, almost laughing, wow, how wrong they are. And that's when you'll know you made it. So, without anything else to add, and kinda tired, nothing new, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a great week because I'm sure it's Sunday. Don't forget to subscribe, to leave a like, to leave a comment, telling me your thoughts, your feelings, and don't forget to follow me on social media. I have Instagram and TikTok. We'll see each other soon. Probably Sunday, next Sunday. So, love y'all, and bye bye. See you soon.